every occupier needs this. This is soap. You take this, you put a little on your hand, and you wash yourself with water, preferably a shower. Those of you occupying New York, there are showers available to you publicly by Central Park. Those in other cities, I'm sure there are other public showers. Don't expose yourself in those showers to other people, because unlike fellow occupiers in civilized society, we don't expose ourselves to strangers. That is a crime. So just I just wish these occupiers would become civilized. They actually shower, because believe me, they smell. Get new clothes, get a job, and stop whining about how their lives stink. I mean, it's not society's fault necessarily that they live in their mother's basements or in walk-up apartments above a tattoo parlor or whatever. Okay, it's not society's fault. It's their own fault in most instances. Not all, but in most instances, it's their own fault. This is a merit-based society, and the occupiers have to learn that. Now, there are some people who are very intelligent who do not have the financial means to attend college and therefore end up in jobs that are lower skilled, but yet they are still able to think in a way that is perhaps even smarter, more intellectual than wealthy CEOs. But in most cases, certainly not all, if you're willing to work hard in this country, you can get ahead. And I think that the occupiers, instead of spending time taking to the streets, not showering, living in walk-up apartments above tattoo parlors, or not, living in their parents' basements and collecting their welfare checks and then going out and expecting free food and living in tents for a couple of days because it's a big camping trip. They should instead try to better themselves. All of us could better ourselves. I don't care who you are. You could better yourself. I could better myself. It's just how it's part of the human condition. There is always room for self improvement. And but I think this really, the Occupy movement, first of all, doesn't really stand for anything. I think it's just a bunch of smelly, ignorant people who take to the streets to complain about society, despite the fact that society's actually, in most instances, have been quite good to them. If you read most of the stories, but let's review the facts here. The fact is that the occupiers do not represent the 99%. They represent the, if anything, the largest number that they could possibly even conceive to represent is the 47% of Americans who do not pay taxes. In all likelihood, not some of those Americans, they can make that argument, but in reality, some of those Americans simply cannot afford to even afford taxes. In other cases, they dodge taxes. They're not taking to the streets, and at least they contribute something to society. The occupiers seem to not contribute anything to our society other than taking to the streets, and really just making nonsense. They're totally ignorant to our economic system and how capitalism works, which is why they're protesting it, because they believe in socialism. And socialism, it has failed in the past. Despite President Obama's best efforts to move towards socialism, I know a lot of conservatives disagree with me, but he's not a full-fledged socialist in the European style. He has socialist leanings, certainly, but he's not a full-fledged socialist. Despite his best efforts, capitalism, despite being weakened under his administration, still continues to show signs that it is able to thrive in certain aspects. But the truth is that the Occupy movement is not really. The majority of Americans look down upon Occupy because these are people that are committing crimes. They are becoming a public nuisance in various cities and towns across America. And the majority of Americans do not support the Occupy movement. I think there's a couple fundamental goals that occupiers have to know. In addition to the whole soap and shower and get a job thing, I think that they should realize that without wealthy people, there would not be a upper middle class, a middle class, or even a lower middle class or working class, because socialism is a failed system. So you have to then rely on people of different classes. Now, I don't think that I think that does not ability in the human sense is very selective. I don't believe that a CEO is definitely smarter or necessarily smarter or dumber than a worker, someone who works in his company, as even the janitor who sweeps the floors. I don't think that that janitor is necessarily smarter or dumber than that CEO. I think he's different. He or she is different than that CEO in where they are able to use their intelligence. What it really comes down to is a couple things. First of all, merit is certainly a part of it. It is not everything, and not in all circumstances. Merit does not necessarily play a role in where a person goes, but certainly merit does play a role. Timing and being in the right place at the right time also plays a role. Connections, how they network, also plays a role. But you have to understand the framework of what America is all about, what capitalism is all about, and what freedom, frankly, is all about, to really understand our economic system. And the occupiers lack any type of understanding. They believe that wealth is made to be redistributed. But when you start taking things away from people based on their success, you are therefore punishing their success indirectly, sometimes directly, and therefore you are creating an environment in which success is not rewarded, and therefore people are less likely to try to strive to be the best. And therefore everybody suffers the consequences, not just the CEO or the lawyer, the doctor, whatever. The truth is that there is a place in society for everybody. Except, in my view, I think that there is not a place in society for the occupier who sits around collecting welfare checks, living in their parents' basements or walk-up apartments above tattoo parlors. I think they're wasting. In some cases, I think that some of these people probably are honestly not smart enough to hold any type of job. Even the most basic job. I don't think that they're really. Maybe some of them actually do need government benefits. I don't know. Some of them are just wasting time because they're pissed off about something. Maybe their feelings were hurt. But these people waste so many hours that they could spend instead of occupying wherever they're occupying. You could actually be using that same time to go out, fill out a job application, hopefully get an interview. This economy is bad. I get that. But you don't stop trying until you succeed. And this comes from personal experience. I'm not going to go into that, but everybody goes through rough times in their lives, and everybody has their way of coping with it. But I don't believe that an appropriate way to cope with it is to not shower and to go out and begin marching across cities for protesting because there's some people who have more. Newsflash, everybody. There's always going to be somebody who has more. Even that wealthy CEO who the occupiers hate so much has somebody that has more than them. Okay? I mean, almost everybody. I mean, even Bill Gates there are people who have more than Bill Gates. Having more is selective. Wouldn't you say that the President of the United States has more than Bill Gates? Not necessarily in monetary value, but in power or privilege or prestige, but yet Bill Gates still has more money. He still has an idea that he came up with or copied from Apple that he used. So it's very selective. Having, this whole crap about the 99 and 1%, it's just crap because you cannot. Even using that 99 and 1%, believe me, the occupiers, the stereotypical occupier is a very small percentage of the U.S. population. Most people that are, middle class and working class are working hard, playing by the rules. Most, not all. Most wealthy people, not all, are playing by the rules. And most poor people, maybe they had a misfortune in their lives. Even most of the poor people, even those on government benefits, not all, but most, have a reason for needing government benefits. But the occupiers just seem to be kind of a distraction from what really matters in our society today, and that is trying to create an environment in which jobs can be created. We have to stop this argument about taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Instead, let's empower everybody. That's the message that I have, and I'm sticking to it.
I believe most of the American people say about Occupy Wall Street and all of its versions all over the country is, how about trying something different to help our economy instead of occupying Wall Street and occupying Boston and occupying Oakland? And how about you occupy a job?